helping change of behavior. There are a lot of soft and human skills that we have to work with as change agents. And every single person on this earth is so different from each other. You're going to learn every time you see something new. So be curious all the time would be my fifth tip. So, I hope that you have something around you, like a pen or paper or Post-its or even your phone. I know I spoke really, really quick because I wanted this to be very quick, but I request you to write down one step, one tangible step that would help you take that next step or be that ally for someone else. So again, if you're entering this world as a newbie, write down that one courageous step. One of my mentees asked me a couple of weeks back when they shared their short-term and long-term goals, and they said, Dimple, am I too aggressive? Is this achievable? Can I do that? And I'm like, oh, no one gets to decide how fast or slow you're going. No one gets to decide what you're worth. You get to set your pace. Take that first step. If you're a newbie, write down just one thing that you know that you can take action on. I'll reach out to someone to mentor me, to coach me. If you're an ally, if you see someone who you see is entering the world new, then your simple tangible step could be, I'm going to reach out to them and see if they need any help. One step that will help you take an action towards making yourself do something that you've been scared of, or you being a great ally that you wish you had when you entered a new world as a newbie. Be resilient to skepticism, excuse me. People are going to question and all the time, and that's okay. It's fine, because this is a complicated world that we are in, and our jobs are difficult and often not completely understood. People often claim that they understand Agile, and how many times we've experienced that is not often true, and that's okay, because they don't know what they don't know. So that makes our job more difficult. So it's okay assuming positive intent, right? If only you take that first step, you can do this. You absolutely can do this. And one of the things I often tell any team that I'm working with, any team I'm coaching, whether it's the leadership team or whether it's just one-on-one coaching or whatever, you don't know until you try it out. So just try it. Just take that first step, be courageous, and it's going to be a no if you don't try it. But when you try it, then you at least know whether or not it'll work out. Thank you so much for your time and your patience and for listening. I really appreciate each and every one of you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for any questions? Does anybody have any questions? What questions do people have? Let me phrase it that way.
I have one question about something you talk about. So why did you bring a CEO into that meeting with a new team? And what happened?
I worked for a company that was strictly waterfall, and they decided to execute a program with Agile. We are going to do Agile. So we had an external coach that was helping us at the time. And I was the scrum master of this pilot team that he picked out. And the pilot team was only so that we can learn the world of agility. And everyone was curious on what we were doing. And we started inviting everyone into the room. And we had like fun little icebreakers with them. And we used to show them on why Agile is the way to go, even outside this pilot team, even in the department, even outside the IT department. And we used to invite all the leaders because everyone was so curious. And what happened is a couple of times when we invited some leaders, a long line of people, you know how hierarchy works, especially traditional world. So a couple of times when the CIO and SVP, they walked in, they were along the line of people through the hierarchy that also came in, and then the pilot team vanished because everyone wanted to be there, or we're there to support. So what happened is when we started inviting more people in, we just invited them, because the point was to tell them as the senior leadership, as the CEO of the company, on what we are doing for your company. And they incredibly appreciated that, because they never get that visibility. You know, that iceberg image that we often see, they don't see what's underneath the iceberg. And most people, they want to, they're just not able to, they're not exposed, because somewhere it gets hidden in the hierarchical structure. So that was pretty huge, because the CEO, he was pretty amazed and he was very appreciative. And the team, they just couldn't stop talking about how hard they worked and what all they had achieved. Mission successful. Thanks for your question. Any other questions that I may answer?
Yeah, hey. I would say, a newbie's position, you are in a newbie position when you start a new assignment. How do you relate to starting a new assignment with a new industry and this one? So you have to go through the same steps, right?
Those were the steps that worked for me. Yes, those will be my top 5 when I entered this world as a newbie. Be it a different industry, right? I used to be in insurance. Now I'm in manufacturer. Earlier I was in financial domain. But when I thought about how I can pay it forward and what worked for me and what are the things that I can share that work for me, hopefully that might work for someone else. Those were the top 5 things that I would say yes. Thanks for your question, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Can you folks see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Yeah, so my name is Ken Roberts. Again, empathy interviews for transformational coaching. So let me tell you a story. I want to tell you about empathy interviews as part of transformation work. So at one point I had just joined a company and I was doing these interviews with folks. And as I'm doing the interviews, I discovered during actually more than one interview that layoffs had occurred over a few months prior to my joining. More importantly, as I interviewed folks, there was a lot of fear in the company and the organization regarding layoffs related to the transformation. So people are literally afraid that if they didn't do right in the transformation, that they would get fired. As a matter of fact, I'll paraphrase one of the people I spoke with. Just tell me what our management wants me to do and I'll do it. So as you can imagine, the way that I successfully engage with people in that organization will be impacted by that history and by those ideas and feelings, right? Those are things you can't ignore and expect to be effective in transformation work. And there's issues surrounding trust, transparency, and self-protection. They're huge when you're trying to do a transformation type work. So what happens if I'm blind to this? What if I don't know what's going on? What are the possibilities, though, if I'm aware and if I'm connected into this situation? And how do I become connected into it? So yeah, again, my name is Ken Roberts, an experienced transformation consultant. Worked with many different types of organizations. A lot of you folks know me, so I don't want to sell myself too much on this slide. You know me, if you want to learn more, reach out. So why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because I believe that empathy, interviewing people in an organization, helps me understand and connect with them, leading to more successful transformations. So what I want to do with this talk is have you folks learn more about empathy interviews. And the reason for that is because if you are a coach or a scrum master, it helps to make you more effective if you use this technique. So what is an empathy interview? Empathy interviews are a well-known way to understand customers. They were originally part of design thinking. You'll see a lot of, or I don't know if they were originally part of it, that's definitely where it's used a lot. And it's used to build empathy around customers. So it's not just asking them, what do you want? It's more like understanding what their needs are, what their drivers are, their values, their motivations, their perspectives, their ideas, right? So it creates a deeper understanding of the people involved. So as you can imagine, these are actually useful in transformation coaching as well. It helps me to connect with the people individually. It helps me to learn the common language and circumstances involved in the transformation. Helps me to understand their motivations and the outcomes they want. And that's important because if I can help the transformation move in such a way that they already have a desire to make the change, it's going to be more successful, right? So trying to meet them where they are and help them achieve their goals, not the goals I'm coming in with. And then me taking time to process them, each individual interview, and kind of build a more holistic picture helps me to see a bigger picture about what's going on in the organization as a whole, and may reveal some things from a systems point of view that might not have been obvious. Such as circumstances, commonly perceived barriers, where leverage points are, that sort of thing. So, it's all good stuff. So how do I do the interviews, right? So how to engage helps to drive the success. So I select people in various silos in the organization at various levels of the organization. In one set of interviews I've done recently, I interviewed the CSO, the chief security officer, all the way down to individual contributors. I didn't do everybody, but I did that folks in that silo, but also stakeholders around that group to try to figure out what's going on, right? I try to go short, usually half an hour. Because of the context, I do talk about confidentiality in this case. I agree to anonymize the conversations. I may paraphrase without attribution or share selected ideas with other folks, but I'm not going to tie it to the person that I'm speaking with. So what do I do during the interviews? I ask open-ended questions. Some are context specific. I'm not just listening to the words. I try to connect and observe what's going on. So if there's a lot of movement, a lot of energy that they've got, I might make a note of that, right? Or if they're kind of thinking or pensive or look hesitant, I may make a note of that as well, right? Because it helps me to see not just what their words are saying, but the rest of them, what they're saying, right? So what do they say? What do they think? What do they feel? What do they do? How do they react? It's very useful actually to have a second person in the room during the interview, because then they can also capture exactly what they said and all the details. It's hard to do both when there's only one person there. So here's some sample questions. What outcomes are you looking for in this transformation? What are your personal goals in this transformation? As you think ahead, what has you feeling motivated? What has you feeling concerned? Based upon your experiences, how effective do you think the group will be? And what will the change call for you in your role, right? So, and my goal is just to sit there and listen to this stuff, right? Try to just absorb it. One context-specific example I had that I used in the company I'm currently with, what would work best for bringing the technology and security people together for this transformation, right? So I could throw a couple context-specific ones in. The other thing, though, is I don't just stick to these questions. I keep the questions and the conversation open. So if there's a lot of energy around a particular topic or whatever, I'll let that go and drift in that direction for a little while, because that's going to provide me information relevant direct to the situation. So these are some of the questions that I may draw from. There are more examples in an article that I'll reference a little bit later. So how do I process the interviews? This is where I try to start to see the bigger picture. And what I do is I'll end up, I use like an empathy map. And the empathy map is this kind of diagram over here. I ask what they think and feel, see, say, and do, pains, gains, etc. What I'll do is I'll look at the interview, I'll take bits and pieces of it, stick them on Post-it notes, and then everybody's Post-it notes comments will be up there, and I'll be able to start to see patterns and groupings and things about where there's a lot of energy or where there's a lot of concern for the transformation. Another map is the 4 integral areas. For those of you that attended the Michael Spade workshop or a conversation that we had a while back, you can use the integral transformation framework as well to kind of get an idea of where people are and where they are in terms of the 4 quadrants. And again, this helps me to see the holistic picture, common themes, and to see where there's a lot of energy within the group. So again, the premise is that empathy interviewing people in an organization helps me understand and connect with them, leading to more successful transformations. And I believe that's especially true when first joining an organization. If you want to find out more, this is where you can do it. I wrote an article for Agile Alliance. It's posted up on their site. It's called Empathy Interviews for Transformational Coaching. And in a little bit, I'll put the link in the chat so that way you folks can read it. I just want to end with a quote. So empathy is when you can feel what another person is feeling. Empathy is the foundation of a human-centered design process. By deeply understanding people, we're better able to design for them. Yes, that works well for design. It also works well for transformations. Thank you for your time.
Very nice.
Nice questions.
Yeah.
So Ken, you said you use quotes without attribution, right? Which I understand. But how do you, and maybe you haven't done this. So when I did it, we did playbacks to teams where the persons we interviewed were actually there.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you sort of handle that? Is the without attribution there, or they sort of know who talks about what, or is the no attribution at a larger scale, or what?
Well, keep in mind, the intent of this is to help me as a coach and other coaches or other folks that are engaged and involved with the transformation to see where patterns and things emerge based upon those quotes. So we may not do a readout with those folks in the room. And again, because I'm anonymizing it, that allows some trust and safety to talk real to me, right? You know, like that whole conversation about the layoff that I talked about in the beginning. How likely is that manager to tell me that if I don't keep it confidential, how likely is that manager to tell me I'm afraid for my job? Right? That's a really vulnerable thing to say, right? So because of this context, I have to honor that confidentiality. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the full picture. I'm not even going to get close to it. It's hard enough to get the full picture. I'm not even going to get close to the full picture.
No, thank you. That makes sense. The context you had was very, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ken, question, this process, is it random people that are part of the transformation, or do you go through every single person on all the teams?
What I do is I will go to select people, like one of the teams, there's multiple teams that I'm going to be working to transform. I selected a couple people from the individual teams that I'm doing, but I also, again, went all the way up to the CSO, right? So I'm trying to understand not just the context of the team, but around the team and around the organization, right? And around the silo that I'm working with, okay? And the stakeholders that are around those folks, right? And I'm not going to everybody, but I'm going to pick and select them based upon what I think is going to be good. And I'll try to make sure it's a representative set of people in each role and each silo and each stakeholder and that sort of thing. You can't interview everybody, it would take too long.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. It's not perfect, but you're going to be a lot better off if you do it. Yeah. Who else has a question?
Ken, I have a question.
Sure.
Yes, I'm still struggling to understand, the intent. So is intent to find out if there's a buy-in from others regarding the transformation, or is intent to find out an openness for change?
There's a lot, think about it from an integral perspective. There's a lot that I'm looking for, right? So I want to understand going in as a coach and trying to help transform this organization. I want to understand the leadership's mindset, right? I want to understand the current processes and the way that they do their work, right? And the way that they interact with their customers. I want to understand how the organization is structured and how the silos are set up and how things are working or breaking down there. I also want to understand the culture and everything, right? But a lot of it is also understanding from a systems point of view, where is the energy that they want to do? Like in one company that I was in, they were having a lot of pain and a lot of energy around dependency management because of the way that the silos were divided up, right? So I, as a coach going in, maybe talking about, okay, why don't we talk about aligning the value streams? Why don't we talk about the way that we interact between teams and ways that we can set up conversations? And, are the product owners or chief product owners or product managers talking to the product owners and product managers in the other part of the organization, so that way they can get a head start on the dependencies that are coming up, rather than dropping the dependencies last minute on these teams, right? So my focus as a coach there is going to be associated with helping them manage those dependencies in a way that aligns with a lot of the agile principles and things, okay? Whereas in the other company, if if the people are afraid for the jobs, if the managers are afraid for the jobs, and the folks that are doing the work are afraid for the jobs, the first thing I need to do is address the trust issue and try to find ways to make sure that they feel safe in having good and open conversations and building facilitation and opening up that wound a little bit to say, wow, you guys are under layoffs, let's talk about that, right? If I start talking about dependencies in that second organization, it's going to go over the head. They're not going to care, right? So I need to go where the leverage is and where their energy is, and introduce thoughts and ideas related to what it is that they are looking for to help them solve their problems, rather than me coming and telling them what to do. Because it's going to be more successful that way. That's what's going to drive the success. If they have a desire to go to that new place, that's half the battle.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who else has a question? Awesome. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Ken, I had a question. Sorry.
Sure.
When you say when people open up with their feeling insecurity, is it because of the transformation that's happening, or with the what's the basic fear?
In that particular case, the leadership's approach to doing this was get on the Agile bandwagon or you're going to be fired. Okay, that wasn't the way that they said it. Okay, but that was the impression that people had.
Okay.
So that helped me to dig into. Does leadership actually believe that they're just going to fire people that don't adapt to Agile? Is this a rumor that's going around that because people got laid off, they're tied it to the Agile transformation? And I need to quell that somehow to say, no, that's not what happened. Let me explain and let me reinforce the fact that you are safe in your job as much as anybody is safe in their job. So it helps me to see a problem. It doesn't necessarily help me to diagnose and fix that problem, but it helps me to see the problem through that empathy and relate to those folks that have that problem. And through that, I'm then able to focus my time and effort to helping the system and the people and the leadership and the culture and everything evolve to change that dynamic.
So why did these people that were feeling unsafe? Was there a pushback from those guys when the conversation started, or out of the blue? And one more thing is follow-up is like, what's the skill level of these people who are fearing for their job security?
I don't go into too much detail because confidentiality reasons. But it was middle management.
Okay.
So you can imagine that trickled down to the folks that reported into them. But it was middle management that was coming to me and saying, "I'm afraid for my job. Just tell me what my manager wants me to do."
Yeah, I got it. Middle management should be scared. Everything I understand that.
Well, I don't want them to be scared. I want them to help me in the transformation. And if they're scared, they're too scared to move and reveal to me the problems and issues that they're seeing because they're afraid to talk to me, because then it'll get out that they are not helping in the transformation. They're going to be so fearful that they're not going to be able to engage me effectively. So I need to immediately shift to building trust with them, because otherwise it's not going to work.
All right.
It'll
Thanks,
fail.
Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for the insight, Ken.
Yeah.
So it's time for our next speech, and Fee is here. And the speech, his title is about, looking for my note again, is automatic software versioning. So Fee is our DevOps expert. The floor is yours, Fee.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Oh, I just realized that I have problem with Zoom. I'm not sure if I can share. Oh, shoot.
Do you want to email the?
I did email the slide.
Oh yes, it's available. Let me grab it then, because I can share.
Yeah.
Okay, I am just having a. Oh yes, you sent. Sorry. Yes, it's a PDF. Let me download it and open it. It will be available very soon.
Yeah. Yeah, just this is my new company computer, and I haven't figured out how to share my screen from Zoom just yet.
Okay, bear with me. It's a PDF, and my computer wants to be smart about it, so it will come up.
Okay, so I have to log out and re-log back in, and hopefully I can share. Let me do that. Okay, so now I can share. Cool. Okay, all of this. You can see my screen now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Let me starting this slide. How do I start it? I forgot. Okay, right here. Nope. Okay, cool. Okay, so today I'm talking about automated versioning system. Why we have versioning, right? So the main reason we have versioning is because of the traceability. Like upper management, product manager want to know what have been deployed onto production, right? And my company, PerPipe, all of our software are on microservices type of architectures where we have like several components that get deployed onto production individually. Like we have front end, back end, AWS Lambda function, and some node modules as well. Yep. And so we need to have a way to tie all of these pieces together in one single release, so that when we say, okay, release 1.0.1 from PerPipe, including this front end release 3.0.1, back end release 5.0.1, for example, right? And then also another uses of the versioning is when we need to roll back something in production that we just deploy and it doesn't work, then we have like a way of rolling back onto the last known working or some working version number that we want to roll back. But the versioning also have its own issue, right? So a lot of time developers just forgot to increase the version number because developer work on code, not on traceability. And then release manager does know that they have to work on traceability, but they just like usually running around say, hey, what version should I increase it to, right? When I release it to production. So that's, I see the need for this to do the automation. So that's what I did for PerPipe. We use the versioning system that described in the samverse.org. Basically, it have like it's a standard from and standard practice on most of the company out there where we have a major, minor, and a patch numbers. And here's MRPy, we increase the major version on a spring release, right? So we have a 2-week sprint release, and if that's during that sprint, there is a component that's changed, then we increase the major number. The minor number, we use that when we have a small change that is not part of a sprint release, but it's a bigger than the hotfix release, right? Usually this we do this when we have a fix that need to like few days of works. And last but not least, the patch release is where we use it to track a hotfix. So hotfix, usually we identify a critical issue on production, and it takes about like an hour, 2 hours to fix that. So we use this patch release. Because of the problem with like developers and release managers, doesn't know how to do, well, they know, but they running around every time to say, okay, what version number should I increase or should I set it to? So I just create a system that do it automatically. So there's 2 scenarios that I support. When the release branch is created, then I increase the version number based on what type of that release branch. So it could be major, minor, or patch release. All right. And then the other scenario is when the release is done, and then when the system sync the code back from master into other release branches, then I increase the version number. So at any point in time, our system, we can have like hundreds of release branches that's going on, and that's the developers working on. All right. So having the automated system to do the versioning increase is like, it's a big help. So sample of the versioning information for the components that we have. For example, this piece of JSON file, I have the API components, and the current version of this is 3.0.0. So tell me that this, what in production right now is a spring release 3.0.0, and that's went out on November 24, a few days ago. And then there's a GitHash version associated with that really a version number for that MRPy API. And on top of that, MRPy also have its own release number, and this is where we tie all of the other components together, right? So on the release 1.0.0 that we release on November 09, that has this MRPy release. Look like the dates doesn't match. It's supposed to be like 29, 24 or something, but so it's have imagine it have more than one component. So have like API front end, whole bunch of lambdas function that part of this, right? So this is just like a snapshot of what we release, and imagine this is checked into the code. So at any point in time when we said, hey, what did we release like 2 weeks ago? So I can always go to GitHub and pull out, okay, here is the metadata file for that release. The tool that I use for this is Python, Bash Shell Script, JQ, and AWS CodeBuild. About MRPy, we are the first independent MRTech platform that automates the creative testing process for brand and agencies. Right. About me, I'm an engineer manager, and we are currently hiring for data engineer and then data scientist. Okay, so that's my talk. Any question?
Can you talk a little bit about like rollbacks and such, like, how it's automated to, I don't know, roll back to any previous version or something like that? What happens?
I'm sorry, can you repeat again?
The question is the rollback, going back to previous version, how it all happens.
So let's say you just release something into production 2 days ago, and then just today that like a customer find out, hey, there was a problem, right? So I going back into this and say, oh, what is the previous working version? So I pull back the git hash, and I run a build on that, and that part of that build, it will deploy that particular version into production. So that's how we roll it back.
Okay, so you build again, right?
Yeah, the build is just like run the deployment. So we running we running on so when I know what you're expressing on your face, Steve, but well, our build I just have to give a little bit background. So our stack is on Ruby, right? So Ruby is not compile code, right? It's a scripting language code, right? So really our build is just like pull back the last known version and then push the script into production, right? So if we have like Java, then we have saved the compile image or compile binary code into somewhere, and then all we have to do is just pull that particular version and deploy into production. But yeah, this is a different stack.
Thank you. It explains, yes.
Any other question?
Yes, in one slide you explained that there is a versioning updated when the branch is created and another version is created when the code is merged. Could you explain how it works?
Okay, so let me bring back that. We always increase the version when it's deployed, not when it's merged. But
when it is deployed.
Yeah, deployment is it released into production.
Yes.
You don't version the branches, you just version master and you deploy from master?
No.
Okay.
So I have to give a little bit. So there's several of my talks before when we're talking about the continuous deliveries, right, and continuous deployment. So we deploy on the release brand, not on the master. Master is just keep track of the sort of truth for whatever out there. But as soon as the code pass all our quality gates, it gets deployed into production, and so it's deployed into from the release branch, not from master. So yeah, so this is where so this so this is a slide that you referring to, right?
I don't see it, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to share. I'm sorry. Oh, shoot. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is a slide that you refer to, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So we increase the version number when we create a release branch, right? And tentatively, we call this a release branch, but it's really a release candidate. So potentially at the end of this life cycle of this branch, the code may be deployed into production. So that's why the version number got increased, got updated here. Make sense?
Well, I have to understand what it means to release from a branch and not never from master. But it may be off-site on the sidebar discussion
Yes,
because that may take us.
maybe I will give another talk about continued deliveries on the next lightning talk. But yeah. Any other question?
Yeah, this is Amit here. So this workflow is relevant for like single team, or do you think it will work for a multiple team as well?
Oh, this is we have multiple teams, right? So that's why we that I mentioned before, like at any point in time, we could have like hundreds of release branches. So right now I forgot the count, but I have like over 100 branches for all of our components.
So in that case, like the inter-team communications and dependencies, how it is managed?
So the this falls into the hands of the Scrum Master and the release manager. So we have to do the planning very well. So at the beginning of the sprint, we have to identify all of the dependencies and all of the work that needs to be done for the 2-week sprint. Right? Otherwise, it's not going to work. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me see if I can bring up the pipeline that I'm using. Just a little bit. It should come at another talk, but let me see if I can share this pipeline. Right. So we have like multiple pipelines. So it's imagine it's one of these pipelines is a potential release branch. So when we identify the work, then my DevOps system will just go on and create a branch and create a pipeline. And if I click on this one of this, so we just have this hotfix today, right? And you can see it's check out source, and there's some like menus approval for staging, and it's deploying to staging. And then look like after it's deployed to staging, QA tested and they fail it. So they rejected this. So it's going back into the cycle. But if they approve it, then the code gets deployed to production. And then a PR will create to merge that piece of code from a release branch back into master. And then there's an approval procedure. And then after it's merged into master, it's merged again from master back into all of the other release branches out there. And at the end of the day, it will remove the whole stack as well as the release branch. So that's the complete cycle of my pipelines for this hotfix. Because it's a hotfix, so it's have like only 2 quality check for staging and then for production. But let me bring up another one. This is a spring release one. This one is a good one. It's about development, so deploying to development environments, and then deployment to staging, and then production. Right. And at the end of the pipeline is also get the merge and stuff like that. Any other question?
I think we're running out of time for question now. So if anyone has any more question, I would suggest that to reach out directly to Fee and or go on the Slack channel.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your speech.
Okay.
And next up is Steven. And I have a specific. Yes, so I need to read up a disclaimer first. So this talk is part parody and part truth. Any references to people, real or fictitious, may be intentional. Any reference to what they have said are quotes or paraphrases to be best of my ability, your honor. Steven's goal is to honor these people, not humiliate or belittle them. This said, I have no control over how things land on people. So Steven will be reporting to the ethics committee after this meeting for appropriate disciplinary action and empathy training. So you have been warned.
Okay. Hello, friends. I'm Steve, and I am a code freezer. And I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the CFA Code Freezers Anonymous. Oh, yes. And as we always begin our meetings with our software Serenity Prayer, you can all bow your heads with me and pray, God grant me the serenity to accept the code I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the code I can, and the wisdom, Lord, the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. As you know, we've all suffered through code freezes. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about some of the top 10 code freezes and reasons for code freezes. So folks, we've all been there. I know you've experienced the pain, and as I'm experiencing the pain of adjusting my windows here. So reason number 10, our key developer Brent will be out for a long delayed necessary surgery, as he's the only one good enough idea of how the system works to fix things when they go wrong. So he's never really be able to go on a vacation because the system's always breaking and he's always fixing this one or that one, and poor Brent. So we're trying to get Brent to read chapter 3 of the big book of the 12 steps, which is about sharing what you know, and as you know, sharing is caring. With that, we will move on to we will try to move on as I move my mouse over here. Forgive me, I'm a little technologically challenged at the moment. Okay, reason number 9. We are dependent on 23 other systems, and key people on those systems may be on vacation at the end of the year because they weren't allowed to take vacation earlier in the year. So it's a use it or lose it, and HR is afraid of lawsuits, so it's trying to make sure they record their vacation in their timesheets, even though we know they're going to keep their laptops with them and their cell phones, and we're going to call them when the shit hits the fan. But you know, we want to try not to call them this year again. And it's hard, you know, they haven't had a Christmas, a Hanukkah, Ramadan, Festivus, anytime. We're multi-denominational here, folks. So, but we really want to try this year to give them a day off. You know, that's our goal. Reason number 8. We are not allowed to deploy between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. And the team has been up the past 5 nights trying to fix the last screw up. And well, they haven't been sleeping too well, and they're falling asleep on their keyboard. So we want to give them a little time off so they can rest and re-energize. And you know, this is when they get to fall asleep reading the good book and those 12 steps. That's next week's talk. 12 steps to get us out of this code freeze problem here, so we can actually deliver value to the customer regularly, continuously. Wow, what a concept. Okay, reason number 7. 7? I don't know. 7. There you go. Something breaks and it takes a month for the next release cycle and a week for emergency release cycles. So we need to make sure we don't break anything in any of these tightly coupled systems we interact with. Chapter 11 on the big book is about decoupling. Reason number 6. We haven't load tested for, this is actually a true story, folks. I heard this. We haven't load tested for the holiday peak load. So if something breaks, we want to be absolutely sure nobody's changed anything. So we know we have a scaling problem. Thank you, Joe. You can get off the ice now. We think it's pretty safe. It's starting to crack there. Get off quick. Okay, so reason number 5. I'm fingerly challenged. We need a code freeze so the testers can all find the defects without worrying about any additional defects being introduced during the QA testing. And only defect fixes are allowed. Now, this is an agile group. We're all familiar with Scrum and our 1-month sprint. And we all reserve those last 2 days of that month so those testers can get things done. And we don't want them wasting those 2 days waiting for the developers to fix something that they broke. So that's why we have our code freezes there. Chapter 6 in the big book is all about TDD, test-driven development, testing all the time and automating testing so they can be run by developers in production-like environments. You will get there, folks. I promise you, follow the 12 steps. Next week's talk, we will get there. Okay, reason number 4. It's tradition. It's been done this way since the 1980s. It's the way we've always done things. And in chapter 2 of the big book, you learn about learning new habits and breaking bad habits and unlearning. There's this whole concept there. All right, we're going to go on. Chapter 3, reason number 3, we have never given time to fix technical debt. So we will use this code freeze from Black Friday to the new year, which is a nice time for folks to try and work on some of those issues. And this is step 1 in the 12 steps from the big book. We want to use this code freeze to fix our code and make it safer to make changes in production so we can actually do it during the day. Trust me, it happens. It can happen to you. All right, reason number 2, we don't really need a code freeze. We can deploy anytime. Rollbacks are quick and easy, but the team has been rocking it, and I think it would be nice to give them extra time off to spend with their family and friends this holiday season. And this actually happens after the 12 steps. You can get here, folks. Trust me, you will get here. One small step at a time. And walk with us, brothers and sisters. Walk with me here. Walk with me. And reason number 1 that we do it is code freezes are a cheap way to de-risk. And really, they're all about getting rid of risk. And why do we freeze to get rid of risk? Because we got really crappy code that we can't automatically test. It's too damn brittle. And it's not safe to make changes. Sad, but true. And the thing is, it's cheap in the short run, but it's real expensive in the long run. Think about all the time wasted. We could be experimenting and delivering value to our customers and the business. All our competitors have frozen their code, and we're fixing things and experimenting. We get to jump on them. Amen. Do I have an amen? All right. Thank you, brothers and sisters. All right. Now we're going to introduce you friends of mine here. We're going to introduce you I'm going to introduce you to Bill, the head of the cab. Just a minute here. Bill, you got a minute? Just a minute. We're right there. I'm VP and I head the cab. We run it about once a quarter, whenever fits my schedule, really. I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of disagree with the team there. The system's been really flaky lately, and I'm just not sure we can let that code go into production. We've been having problems with the TPS system. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. And I know it's hard, Bill. I know it's hard, and I know you care about that TPS system. So, but it's going to be okay. We heard you. We did those empathy interviews. We feel your pain. We know you care about that. And we think we have a way to make it safe. To imagine if we could deliver more changes to the TPS system faster, safely, we can make it better, quicker for our customers and for you. So you can have another cup of that coffee you drink all the time. Okay, now, introduce my next friend, just a minute. Ed. Ed's our rock star developer. Hold on there. Yeah, just a minute. Okay, let's see, Ed. Oh, you got it. Okay. My conference badges back when I used to go to this before I took this job. Now I don't have time to go to these things anymore. Yeah, I'm a rock star. I enjoy saving the day. People have problems. They come to me because I'm the only one who knows, so I solve all the problems. It does happen late at night. It keeps me up, keeps me out. My wife's a little upset with me. Truth be told, I'm going through a divorce. It's tough. It's tough. But I got to do the work. It's an adrenaline fix. I don't have time to teach people because, the time to take me to teach people, there are 100 fires I got to put out. So it's good. I like the attention, and they pay me a lot when they give me big bonuses because I solve all the problems. Yeah. Ed, we're praying for you. We know it's hard. We feel for you and your family, but you don't have to do this, Ed. You can stop. You can say no. It's okay to say no. They ain't gonna fire you, Ed. They need you too bad. And then you could spend time sharing what you know so somebody else could take over. I'm going to introduce you to Brother Tom Limoncelli, who wrote Documentation is Automation. And we document what we know so others can do it. And then you can spend time with your wife and kids. We're praying for you, Brother Ed. Hang in there. All right, next, we're going to meet Carlos, our manager extraordinaire. Yeah, Marcos, sorry, I don't know why I said the idiot said Carlos. I'm known far and wide as a master of crisis solving. I solve crisis all the time. When there is a crisis, they come to me and I solve it. But I have a secret I want to share with Come closer. The reason I can solve all those crises is because every time I solve one, that solution, because it was a quick fix that wasn't really well thought out, plants the seeds of the next crisis. So I know it's going to blow up. I know how it's going to blow up. So in between crises, I'm planning how to solve the next one. But it's a burden for me. Help me. Ayúdame, Dios. Ayúdame. We're with you, brother. We're going to help you. And we're going to get you out of these crises, because by taking it slow and reducing that technical debt and making it safe to make those changes, giving you time, helping you to say no and reducing that whip. All right. Now I'd like to introduce some of the other brothers and sisters in the audience, some of whom have spoken here tonight. Sister Dimple Shaw, Enterprise Agile Coach Extraordinaire. She has words of wisdom, friends. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You can do this. Take the first step and make your code safer to make changes. Give your teams time. Stop. And I like that. Stop starting and start finishing. Ask for help. We're here to help you, folks. We've got the big book. Like she said, find a mentor or coach, someone who's done this before and knows how to automate those tests or build that continuous pipeline. You know, you can talk to Brother Fee for that. And do the right thing. Don't take shortcuts. And never, never, never stop learning. Thank you for those words of wisdom, Sister Dimple. Now we have Brother Ken, transformation consultant to the stars. Brother Ken, he builds empathy. He keeps the focus on the user where it belongs. He understands what they hear, what they say, what they do, what they think, and what they feel. He understands your pains and what you want to gain. So don't be blind to what's going on with the people around you. Context matters. Understand what others need and help them feel safe about that change. And you start with empathy to unfreeze that relationship across those silos, so you can start unfreezing the code and making it safe. And he has a common language for their pains, and he uses this information to help people feel safer making changes, because it helps them achieve their outcomes, their goals. He knows what motivates them, and he knows what alienates them, what they're afraid of. Listen to Brother Ken. Go to him. He can help you. Yes, amen for Brother Ken. Thank you. And we have Brother Fee, our DevOps expert and DevOps engineering manager, and he talks about semantic versioning, so we know what's out there, and we know all these different pieces are connected. He talks about traceability, and we can observe and know what's going on in the system and learn about it, so we can actually get information back. And he wants to tie all those people together and make those dependencies visible, so we can break them apart and do some decoupling, which is a big thing in making things safe. And of course, roll back in case there's an issue. That's big. Now we have Brother Brian Finster, developer, value stream architect, DevOps insurgent, who optimizes for sleep. I say he optimizes for sleep. That's very important, folks. We want our folks to get rest. Why do they have to do deploys in the middle of the night and spend 6 hours away from their families at the office? Well, nobody goes to the office now, but you know what I mean. And you know, he has two paragraphs of words of wisdom I want to share with you. He goes, this year, spend the holidays looking at your system of delivery, identify the things that you aren't confident in, and put an improvement process in place to gain some confidence. Remove variance caused by manual processes. Manual's evil. It's the devil incarnate. Automation is our friend. Improve test efficiency and effectiveness. Make things better. And if a disciplined improvement process seems like too much work, just give your development teams a paid vacation so that no more defects are generated without the ability to detect them. It's just less risky, and they'll come back refreshed and be able to work again. All right, now we go to our savior, Kent Beck, helping geeks feel safe in the world. And now years ago, Brother Kent had this crazy idea called TDD, test-driven development, where you write the test first. It's crazy, ain't it? And then, get this, then you write the code to make the test pass. Now imagine your user stories if they had to have the tests written in them first, and the product owner actually looked at it and said, oh, those tests are actually what the user cares about. And then the developers would know what they had to get working. It's crazy. It's crazy, but you know, crazy ideas when they work, boy, nobody else thought of them, and that's really powerful. And here's the other thing, Brother Ken, you know, most defects end up costing more than it would have cost to prevent them. Defects are expensive when they occur, both in direct costs fixing the defects and indirect costs of damaged relationship, lost business, and lost development time. So make it work, make it right, and make it fast. Thank you, thank you, thank you, brothers and sisters. Find a coach, find a mentor, start doing those 12 steps in the big book. Partner with someone who's willing to help you. Don't do this alone. Find someone who's willing. Find a coalition of the willing to start the rebellion and kill those, dethaw those code freezes and make small, incremental improvements to make change safer. So make it work, make it right, and make it fast. Thank you all. Praise and thank you for being part of CFA. Amen.
Thank you. Should
Master,
we make it? Yeah. So who has a code freeze?
I feel like I was in a Broadway show. Thanks, Steve. It was nice.
So question.
I don't like code freeze. That's all.
Hey, Steve, it's code free is part of the audit process. Where does it fit in the audit process?
In the what process?
Audit.
Audit. I don't think code freeze should fit in anywhere. I don't think you should ever have a code freeze, period.
Yep.
It's called
Period.
continuous delivery for a reason.
Exactly.
Audits are about being able to manage risk and ensure your controls were in place so you're in compliance with governance. And you did what you said you'd do to try and mitigate risk and be in compliant with government and contractual obligations. So I completely decouple code freeze and audits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, it's going to take a while to get there. This is not a, oh, just stop freezing your code. I mean, there is, you know, Brian Fitz has a great question. He asks, you know, what's stopping you from delivering right now? Which is sort of continuous delivery. And being able to continuous delivery has a forcing function of making your code actually safer because you're doing it more often, you know, and the people fixing it are the ones who have to own it. So I don't know. Did I answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, you did. You know, and does it have to go through the CAB, this one, change management also, or for every code freeze?
Why do we need a change management board? Change advisory boards and CABs are scar tissue from things gone wrong, in my opinion. And you know, they're the hippo, highest paid person in the room, feeling like I'll solve this. I'll put together a group of people who don't know the code, don't know the system, who are going to approve things. Who knows how code works? Hell, some of the developers don't know how all the code works. You want people like close to the factory floor who know what's going on, you know, within guidelines, within guardrails, to be able to do the work. If I've got to wait for an approval from a CAB that meets once a month if you're lucky, once a quarter if you're not, you know, you're delaying delivering value to customers. You're delaying experimenting on what might work and what won't work.
Totally agree.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. You know, yeah.
Now, I joined the CAB.
Uh-huh.
I joined the CAB for two reasons. Those executives eat really, really well. We had catered lunches all the time. It was wonderful. And I was there to make sure things got moved through.
Yep.
But I was also there to listen. Like Ken has a really good point. They're not evil. They're trying to do their best, and they've got a really, really hard job, right? You know, for all the dissing I did before, right? It's really, really hard. And you want to be there to understand their concerns and find ways to automate them away and remove the risk, because the risk is real and they know more about the risks than we do. They've got visibility we don't have, we being developers, frontline managers, etc. So it was very educational to go to the cab to better understand those risks, and like Ted, so you could better talk to them and address their concerns. Because if you can address their concerns and get leadership buy-in, you can get things done and gain a few pounds in the process.
Good. And one more thing is like most of the times, like when for deployments, you have some kind of a time frame. Like when during off working hours, weekends. So, is there anything for freeze code also? Is there any time frame, or it can be done at any?
So I am not going to tell a team that right now is deploying in the middle of the night to start deploying in the middle of the day. That would be insanity.
No, based on the product, based on the product and business.
But that is the goal. You should be able to deploy any time of day and during working hours, right? And I right now manage a team, and we deploy any time of day. Actually, and everybody's day. I got somebody in New Zealand, so she deploys during her day. We deploy during our day. But it's really safe, and there's lots of things in the big book. I joke, but you got feature flags. How quickly can you roll back if there's a problem? Can you test like a small chunk of your user traffic rather than the whole thing, right? So it really takes a lot of work and time to instrument and architect your systems to be safe to change.
Yep, I agree with Steve. We any time of the day. So for Merpipe, we any time of the day we can just deploy. And then just today, I ran like 10 deployments into production. Right. In order to have this confidence, instead of like have like a chance board, we should spend time or push on the quality gate, right? So that is very important. Those quality gate to help us to gain confidence on what we deliver. And also when we deliver very small increment, no big bang deliverables.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is those big bang deliveries and large changes are actually much riskier than small changes.
Except.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Any other questions?